Well, I've been playing around a little bit with my 30-pound Carahard. I didn't quite have it fine-tuned the last time we were together, so I've been playing with it a little bit. Remember, I had some squeaking and some belt slipping, and I didn't have it wired yet, but now I do. Sometime in its former life, somebody had taken a piece of pipe and welded it to the back of this framework, and I hadn't cut it off, and I'd been kind of debating what I'd do with it, but I decided to incorporate a post that I could mount my switch on. And this is a small enough machine that is pretty easy to reach. And these belts were trying to slip on this nice smooth pulley, and I talked about putting some friction tape, which I bought a roll of that. But while I was at the hardware store, I looked at this step tread tape as well. It's pretty coarse, and there doesn't seem to be any slip in that. It came in 2-inch widths, so I put 2 of them side by side. And it wanted to slip when I engaged it, but now all that is gone. Before, when I engaged it, these belts would slide clear off to the side. And now you notice they don't even move, they stay right there. As you come through my doorway here, this is where I've had it setting, and this is kind of where I had thought maybe I was going to put it, because I have a 110 outlet right there. But I ended up switching from my 110 to a 220, so I'm going to move it to a different spot. So for those of you who have visited in the past, the past few summers, when I bring you onto this side that I do my blacksmithing, and I have these power hammers, and I have this big camelback drill press and my metal lathes, you know about this drill press. It's a Aurora Tool Company, Aurora, Indiana. And looking it up on Vintage Machinery from Keith Rucker, and it looks like they operated from about 1898 to 1925 to 29 in there somewhere. This is, I think, a 22-inch. This table measures 22 inches across, and when I measure from the spindle to the back, we could fit 11 inches here. So I think it'll have a 22-inch swing. But it's kind of in the way, and it also runs off of a 220 electric motor as well. And I'd like to sneak that little Carahard in between these two. And so I have a post here that has my power to it, and I would like to just kind of fan these out and have my Anyang and my Carahard and my Aurora drill press kind of centered around this post, but I need to pull this drill press over to allow some space for this Carahard to go back. And some of you have asked about these side frames that I bent here a couple weeks ago. Whatever happened to those? Generally, I take them off within about 24 hours, but I'm putting the back frame on those bodies, as you know, as you've been watching. So I really haven't needed these yet, so I decided just to leave them on the form. I don't see where it can hurt, so I kind of shoved them off to the side a little bit so I can get in and try to swing this camelback drill press, maybe a 45 this direction. So back behind my forms that I use for bending on my steam bender, there's a post here that is buried in the concrete, and so I've anchored to that post, and I'm going to grab a hold of the face of that camelback and try to use my come along and just slide it over this direction. It's a heavy beast. I have had to move it a couple of times, and I don't remember just how I did it, but I have some 1/2-inch bolts that hopefully I can grab a hold of them and maybe winch it to the side. That's going to work. So I think I'm going to try it right there. I have this rack here that I keep my 12-quarter lumber on, and I can still just sneak it by here with it set about that position, and it opens up enough space I can put that Carahard back in there. So I did take a 1/2-inch rubber mat and I kind of shaped it to the base, and I'd like to just slide this whole thing back and then see how it fits. I'll hold it in place while I set her down. So always trying to anticipate if I have enough room, as close as things are. This hammer and anvil set square with the machine, so you can't go a lot this direction. But it could come this way, and I'm free to do that. This anyang is setting it at about a 45, so I have a lot of room to go this direction. My bench there could be in the way, but that is still movable, and I can still come a lot this direction if I don't push this any further back. So that still stays usable. And then this drill press, I have a lot of room here. You know, this is a 22, but I have taken axles and drilled the center hole for the kingpin in them. But I can go this direction. This whole table will rotate. I've got it locked down right now. It'll take this vise and I can rotate it at different angles, so I can put a large axle this direction and a little bit this direction. But I think maybe that is going to be workable there as well. When I bought this anyang, the recommendation was to put a 3/4 inch plywood underneath it. And I did that at first, and I don't have it bolted down still yet. And it did want to kind of vibrate and walk a little bit. So I put this maybe about a 5/8 mat, actually is designed for horse trailers. And I put a new mat in my horse trailer, and I had this that was left over, and it was just the right size for this. And since I have put that mat down there and still continue to use it, it has not moved at all. But when I put this mat underneath this Carahard and play with it a little bit, it does still vibrate and want to move side to side. So I think that needs to be anchored down. Well, I've never had all three of these trip hammers or power hammers operable at the same time. With this Carahard now functional, I do. You remember the children's story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears? Well, this is kind of what I have here. I have my Papa Bear in the anyang 88, my Mama Bear in the Little Giant 50, and the Baby Bear in the Carahard 30. So what I put together is a little experiment. I have some square stock from old axles, and I cut 3 pieces that are 3 inches long. This is 1.25 inches square, and generally axles are made today out of 1065 tool steel. So I have 3 that are all the same, and I've welded handles on them, and they're different lengths because it was just off of my iron pile from my cutting table, so they're just kind of scraps. But I'm going to heat them up and try to get them relatively close to the same heat and run one to each hammer. And if I was real scientific about this, which I'm not, I would have some way to know that I bring them all up to exactly the same heat. The only way I could do that is bring it up to a welding heat, and that's when you start to see that spark. I don't know if I need to go that hot. I'll try to judge them up into that white hot area, and I'm just going to do one heat and just put it under the hammer and strictly compression, and I'll probably rotate it back and forth depending on how it compresses, and see how far each hammer will compress this down in one heat. When it goes to where there's no color, I'm going to stop. Be just kind of a curious test what 3 different hammers and 3 different weights will do. I could go heavier, especially on this 88, but I went with the 1¼ by 3, mainly for that Carahard because it's the baby. And we'll see how it goes. Just one at a time. I'm going to bring it up to where it's hot. And I did put flat on here for a handle so that if it compresses down, especially on my big one, I won't have too much that'll be in the way. I don't know how it's going to go. I've never done this kind of a test before. And I'm going to try to put most of the heat just on that square stock and try to keep as much as I can off the handle. It's going to crawl up the handle some. So as all of you know that do any of this pounding with iron, you want the face of your anvil to be about knuckle height when you're just standing there and your hands are hanging loose. So my anvils are actually a little taller than many of you folks might have. Mine is at 33.5 to be that comfortable working height. This Carahard is the lowest out of all 3 of them, or 4 if I include my anvil itself. This one I'm at, a little tough to tell exactly, but maybe 31. That could be 31.5 maybe on that one. My little giant, see what it's like. This one is at probably 33.5 to this anvil height here. And this Ain Yang is the tallest. Kind of get a quick guess at that one. This one I am at, just eyeballing across, 37.5 to there. So for me, in my tall legs, this Carahard is really kind of stooping over. I've actually thought about maybe working it off of the stool, but we're going to try it just the way she is. So this is anything but scientific for sure. But if I was just going to do some drawing out, that's a decent color there. It's not white hot. We're into that light orange. And you could do a lot of drawing with that temperature there. It's quite a ways from actually being at a forging heat. But I'll see if I can't bring them all 3 kind of that same color. And I'm going to start with Baby Bear first, and then I'll go to the 50 and then to the 88. see my experiment is flawed because my hammer came off on the top. But kind of get a flavor for what it'll do. That's for Baby Bear. I was kind of curious about my wedge, as it went in a little further than I thought it should. We'll put that one there for Baby. Next, we'll see what Mama Bear Little Giant 50 does. It's kind of the same problem. I lost my hammer on it, but it took it significantly further. We'll set that down for Mama Bear. Some of my malfunctions on not having my wedges tight, I guess. So I guess the last test is Papa Bear. Well, my weld's coming apart there. Quite a little bit of difference, huh? Well, this is not even a fair test, but still, the comparison is impressive. Here's Papa Bear, here's Mama Bear, and there's Baby Bear. I lost the anvils on both of these partway through, but still the amount of progression in the same amount of time is almost like saying, wow. But there's the 3 tests, even as flawed as they are. And saying that these are flawed is an understatement. But that 50 was making good headway until the anvil came out. When that wedge came out, it was just soaked with oil, so I think that was part of the problem. I haven't used that thing for, 6-7 years maybe. The Carahard, yeah, my fault again, but that's part of being the baby. You know, you just don't have the experience yet. I don't have the experience with it yet. That wedge just didn't seem like it was quite tight enough, and obviously it wasn't. This 50 I have used a lot. In fact, I built the whole Borax wagon project off of that 50, and it'll get some serious work done. But it's still not like this 88. Anyway, kind of fun to play with it. Appreciate you coming along. Thanks for watching.